So. Sali, hoi zusammen und grüezi miteinander. Welcome to the third edition of the Swiss-German Initiative. My name is Fabian. Well, unfortunately, Lele is again unable to join the stream, and this is probably until the end of the year. And there was no falling out or anything. He just has to work 2 jobs and has a lot of work to do, so he cannot join the stream. And in typical Swiss fashion, there are two things which always counted as an excuse. One is work, and the other one is being late because of the SBB. But just as an information, don't use the SBB as an excuse because people can actually look up the timetables. So let's start. One thing I thought about, if it is even clear for everyone, what I'm actually trying to do with the named segment. The thought is to try different ways to present Swiss German in a way that actually works on a streaming format. So I say this should lead to a slightly less boring, learning experience. And with that being said, I created a post on our Schweizerdeutsch where people who are only on Reddit can post questions or suggestions during the show, and Anna will look them up. And as well, I prepared a clip so there is no awkward silence or babbling from my side while I check those questions. Anyway, first I wanted to recap the segment from the last episode because I didn't get all the points across. So just a small recap. You produce, or different speakers from different countries produce different sizes of cavities in the back of their mouth with their tongue, which leads to a different angle and therefore pronunciation of vowels and consonants. And as well, the direction of the tongue, or how you actually can move your tongue. If you want to have this in detail, please watch the last segment of the last show. So, I mentioned the German ch, so the sound, which you can actually produce just by imitating an angry cat. So, but I failed to mention that the Swiss version is nothing else than just sliding your tongue backwards. So you can slide back and forth, which which changes the place where the air gets compressed, and it automatically does the other sound. So you can do the angry cat, and then slide the tongue back, and it will automatically create that sound. And another thing that I left out was the rolling R, where to prepare for this video, I watched a couple of videos with explanations how people try to explain how this actually works. And some of them use tricks that you accidentally produce a sound, and others are slightly wrong for technical reasons. One thing is that I read or seen is that you produce it actually with the tip of your tongue, and that's wrong. You produce it with the side, so one of the salty parts, which you see here in the picture. And to do this, one second. So, first of all, you lift up the sides of your tongue, so the sour parts. You don't have to lift it up a lot, but just a tiny bit. It's the same as you would whistle. So you create this U sound. Was ist los? Ich bin nicht am Stream. Oh, sorry for this. I have the stream open on another computer, and I thought the stream wasn't running. So, yeah, you put up the sides, and where was I? Yeah, so in the same manner as you would whistle, so it creates a U. and then you put up the tongue that it's so that it's on the side of your teeth, and then you try to move the tip of your tongue while being or while touching the front, and you just move it completely to the side, so you actually pushing it against the teeth, and you do that with contracting the salty part on one side, whatever feels more comfortable for you. And if you stretch it far enough, the other side will relax, which then creates the flapping sound, the rolling R. And you can do this, just let out some air, have the tongue in a slight U form up, and then press it to the side, and it will automatically start to vibrate. So up, to the side, so it gets like a simply by moving the tip to one side and let the other side flap. One other thing I forgot to mention is the U sound. And I think the problem that most people have with it is that they try to do it to start from an U and then go to a U. But the easier way is to start either with an O or an I sound, or in Swiss German O or E sound. So one way would be start with an E, and then the only thing you have to do is purse your lips to have them like an O, and you will automatically produce the U sound. So you have E, simply, I say, purse your lips. And the other way around would be that you start with an O sound, and then you have to move your tongue into the position. So you first start with an O, and then you raise your tongue till it touches the teeth, or in other words, till you have the E position. And you can train that with saying oi 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 oi. Now, if you let the mouth in the same position, it produces an OU. So oi 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 oi. Same thing, pretty easy to do. And yeah, if you have other, how to say, how's it called? If you have other letters which you want to have discussed or have a look at, please leave a comment, and I will try to explain how to do them. Now, just a tiny side note. By the way, I love the side notes. The sentence, or I say, this sentence, by la bombola la, or part of a sentence, I think is good for demonstration how Swiss German actually works, or how we listen to it, because the sentence isn't correct. So it's the correct form, or the way we say it first, sorry, it's by la bombola la. So the first couple of words would be glued together, and then la in the end. Which, if you take it apart, it's by la baumele la. Baumele is the Zürcher, the Zürcher version of it, because Bombele is rather used in Bern than in Zurich. Now, those are both German words, so Bombele could be used in German as well, but they rather use baumeln than Bombele. So in German it would be die Beine baumeln lassen. And if you have a look, there's 2 times la, so it's actually incorrect. But if you simply say, yeah, Beile Bombele la, nobody will look at you strange, or even think about it, because it sounds correctly and the people know what it is, so it will be accepted. So, up to the next segment. Last week I presented Hemmige from Moni Motter, which stung me a bit like a gadfly and made me think about the quote-unquote Swiss mindset, or where it went wrong. So I thought I'd make a segment about it, which I call Holier Than Thou. This is because because of the negative aspect of the Swiss mentality, which is kind of reflected in the sentence. And it's a wordplay between the actual reference, as our history is like deeply interlinked with the Bible or Christianity, as to say it, and as well as the saying that the Holy Roman Empire was neither Holy Roman or an empire. So what we think there was is not what actually happened. Now, I will go forth like this. I see. I love stories, so I thought I have a segment where I tell a loosely connected story, and pick words which would be used to describe it, and present them afterwards. So for exactly this would be like a loose story is nicht unbedingt zusammenhängend, because there is no direct translation to Swiss German for the term lose anything. So you have to use it in the, I say, zusammenhängend means connected, and nicht unbedingt, not really. So, and I will present it in a less serious and less strict way. So, for something not really serious or strict, you would say nicht ernst or seriös or strict. And we have a different word for that, but it's not used that much anymore, which is salope. But salope has the implication that it's done without effort. And it doesn't have to, but it implies it a little bit. So if you want to say that somebody actually didn't use any effort, you would say hast du keine Mühe gegeben. So you didn't put any effort into it. And the Swiss efficient version of it then therefore would be hast du keine Mühe gegeben. So, and there is the E in brackets, and that's because you don't have to say it, because dr in itself sounds like a der. So hast du keine Mühe gegeben. Or in German, hast du dir keine Mühe gegeben. So let's start. Switzerland, the Helvetic Confederation or Federation, or as I always thought about it as a kid, Celtic Star Trek. It's kind of weird because we started that way, we call us that way, but most people, not even the Swiss, think about the Celts when they think about Switzerland. I mean, nothing really Celtic remained, apart from some language snippets, place names, and some thoughts. So, for this picture, just that you have an explanation, this is the family tree. And at the top you have einer für alle, alle für einen, which means one for all for one. You probably know the song from Bryan Adams, or I say from movies about the Musketeers. Yeah, we used that kind of earlier, and then you have French and Italian to the sides. I will not try the French, but the Italian one would be uno per tutti, tutti per uno. And then in the bottom you have Stammbaum der Schweiz, which simply means family tree of Switzerland. So, if Swiss people have to describe the identity or mentality of a Swiss person, they could use those words directly, just like Schweizer Identität or Schweizer Mentalität. But to not use those expressions, just to, okay, this is how Swiss people is, you would say, wie ein Schweizer halt so ist. Another one would be the Art von der Schweizer, so the way the Swiss are. And this is probably a little bit confusing for an English-speaking person, because art in English is German Kunst or Kunst. But I say the art means the way of. And if you want to have it a little bit more poetically, you could say the Geist von der Schweizer, which means the spirit of the Swiss. Well, I'm not really sure why Caesar isn't a national hero in Switzerland. I mean, okay, he gave the Helveti a bloody nose during the Gallic Wars, but he's the single reason why we aren't French. So I think at least a national holiday would be appropriate for him. Now, a Swiss person would say, to comment on this, ohne den Cäsar wären wir heute Franzosen. So in German, ohne Cäsar wären wir heute Franzosen. Or another way would be, Gott sei Dank für den Cäsar, sonst wären wir heute Franzosen. Now, or first in German, Gott sei Dank für Cäsar, sonst wären wir heute Franzosen. Now you see that the wären wir gets glued together again, Swiss efficiency, to wären wir. You pronounce it like one word. Next one would be Cäsar sei Dank, sind wir heute keine Franzosen. And there it's a little bit special because sind wir keine could actually be shorted, but if you have a hut, which means today in between, it's not possible. So if you want to have a shorted version, I have here Dank dem Cäsar sind wir keine or sind wir keine Schneckis or Schneckenfresser. Now, this is an insult, not that bad of an insult, but still an insult. But I wanted to have it in because of the word frasse and how it's used, not to insult the French. Well, maybe a little. So, now, there isn't a really direct translation to English as far as I know. In German, you differentiate if an animal eats, which is fressen, or Swiss German frasse, and when a human eats, which is essen. So, frasse means an animal eating, but Fresse, or in German die Fresse, means the mouth. Now, this is an impolite term, but it's colloquially used a lot. So, and so Fresse, adding forward, and there's another thing, or another word, or let's say it like that. In German, you use Mund for mouth and Maul for an animal, or a mouth of an animal. But in Swiss German, you don't differentiate. You simply Mul is the the polite or correct way to say mouth in Swiss German. So if you have the term "shut your mouth," which in German, if you would have the one-to-one translation to English, would actually mean hold your mouth. So halt deinen Mund, lightly more, expression would be halt dein Maul, and again, a little bit more expression would be halt deine Fresse. Now, those are impolite, but you probably will hear them. And then and we have another term which we use, which is schnurren. Now, schnurren, or if you would say it with schnurren, it's halt schnurren or halt schnurren. And a lot of people in Switzerland will actually change to the Thurgauer accent because it sounds more funny. It's like halt schnurren. And schnurren actually means scrounge or catch, depending on the context that it used. So schnurren would mean the mouth, but schnurren is used for talking, or rather chatter, but in a less polite way. And it kind of implies nonsense. I give you a couple of examples. So a schnorri is somebody who talks a lot, a talker, or somebody who talks nonsense. So you would say to that person, bist mir auch ein Schnorri? Or complete, bist mir auch ein Schnorri? Again, efficient way, bist mir ein Schnorri? So you glue it together. And, just as an explanation, it's not really used for beggars because for a beggar you would say Bettler, also Battler or Battler. And yeah, just as an information. So, was schnurrst du da für ein Zeich? would actually mean, what the hell are you talking about? Then you have, if you want to get something from somebody, like a cigarette or so on, you could say, darf der achte Ziege schnurren? Which, again, glued together, darf der is pronounced like one word. And this is used because then you apply, okay, I'm scrouching a cigarette from you, which makes it a little bit less offensive. Or less offensive in the sense that you know that you're doing something wrong because you get it from the other person. So, yeah, can I scrouch it? And I just want to put that in because I think it's a funny term. It's Schnurregeige. And the Schnurregeige in German, it would be a Mundharmonika, or English a harmonica, which in German you actually say mouth harmonica. So now, as we now know what Caesar did for us, I wanted to show a little bit of gratitude. So, gratias tibiago Caesar. And yes, it's Kaiser and not Caesare or something like that, because the pronunciation actually sounded a little bit more like, I don't know, like a Bündner or something, which talks Italian. And the Kaiser is actually the word that led to Kaiser, so the German word for emperor. And by the way, this is the painting of the surrendering of Vercingetorix, which is a Gaul or a Frenchman. Now, I really love this painting. This is the Helvetier zwingen die Römer unter dem Joch hindurch. So in English, the Helvetii forced the Romans to pass under the yoke. And yes, this is the word where yoke comes from. And while we don't really use yoke or joch anymore, we still use gespann for what yoke actually, or what yoke means in English, like that. So, but we only use it for children actually. So, meaning if you have, if a child is in a class and it has colleagues in the class, you would say, yeah, you're gespannli. So, which come from gespann, which is the thing that you actually put on to the cows so that they can drag the plow. Yeah, but that's like the only way we actually use it for gespannli. You could say you're gespann for your colleagues, but it would be weird, so people wouldn't really understand that. But gespannli is used a lot. And and for the gespann, I tried to translate it via Google, and the only thing I got was Spann. So I'm not sure if this is the right translation. Maybe somebody can write it in the chat. I'm not sure how to call this thing in English. And the actual reason why I love this painting is not because we won, but because of the faces and phenotypes that didn't really change in the last 200 or 300 years when this painting was produced. And this is, I say, especially true for the Italians, because there even the haircut fits and the hair color. Because I'm nearly sure that I know a Giampietro, which looks practically the same as the Roman in the front, which looks at the severed head. Now, we Swiss are a little bit less blonde and certainly less redheaded today, but the kids kind of remind me of myself because I was blonde and had curly hair as a kid. So, yeah, it's always lovely if it reminds me of myself. Anyway, let's continue. So, fast forward to a couple hundred years to the 4th or 6th century. We had our 4th to 6th century, sorry. First, we had the migration of the Germans, or Alemanni, in the 4th century, which I find funny that we have the biggest migration groups since 1700 years are the Germans. But anyway, and then in the mid 6th century, we had some Frankish kingdoms which took over some territory. But I don't want to bring this up because it brings up just too many bad memories, so I will not talk about this. So, and because migration is currently, and as it seemed, always has been a hot topic, here's some phrases that you might hear from people if they did discuss newspapers. Now, what I did is I took some headlines and some prefaces from new articles, right? And then I rewrote them in Swiss German, like one person would say to another. So I choose this way to not, how I say, influence it with my own political bias. So I simply took like the first ones which came up. So, first one is from the Blick. Es hat so wenig Wohnungen, weil die Zuwanderung so hoch ist. Which in German would be, es hat so wenig Wohnungen, weil die Zuwanderung so hoch ist. In English, there isn't so much living space because the migration is that high, or because of a lot of migration. And one thing about Wohnungen, if you write, oh, there aren't a lot of Wohnungen, you mean living space, because you wouldn't say Wohnungen und Häuser. You don't have to actually say both. It simply, it implies that already. Next one would be, die EU will das Asylproblem solidarischer angehen und Migrantenlager außerhalb der EU aufbauen. In Germany would be, die EU will das Asylproblem solidarischer angehen und Migrantenlager außerhalb von der EU aufbauen. Now, I put machen in the end because if you can't find a word in Swiss German which is fitting, you can sometimes simply use machen instead of the correct term, which would be aufbauen. So to build up, simply use make. So in Swiss German, it would work as well that you say, die EU will das Asylproblem solidarischer angehen und Migrantenlager außerhalb von der EU machen. Which, if you say it colloquially to a friend or something like that, it's not a problem. Next one is vom SRF. Die Schweiz hat den höchsten oder einen der höchsten Anteile von Ausländern. Fast ein Drittel sind Migranten. So, in German, die Schweiz hat den höchsten oder einer der höchsten Anteile von Ausländern. Fast ein Drittel sind Migranten. So in English, Switzerland has the highest or one of the highest percentage of foreigners. Nearly 1/3 are migrants. One sec. So, and the last one, which is from Watson. Now, I find the first words funny to read because 41 is in High German 41, but you usually don't see R, Z, G in combination. So, 41% von der Bevölkerung hat einen Migrationshintergrund. In German, 41% von der Bevölkerung haben einen Migrationshintergrund. Or in English, 41% of the population are migrants or have a background of being migrants. Now, I do the same for a left and a right-wing political party. So, if there's text from the SVP, die Schweizer Wirtschaft ist seit und je auf ausländische Arbeitskräfte angewiesen. Die Schweiz erlebt jedoch seit dem 2007 wegen der unkontrollierten Einwanderung eine regelrechte Bevölkerungsexplosion. In German, die Schweizer Wirtschaft ist seit und je auf ausländische Arbeitskräfte angewiesen. Die Schweiz erlebt jedoch seit 2007 wegen der unkontrollierten Einwanderung eine regelrechte Bevölkerungsexplosion. In English, the Swiss economy is since ever reliant on foreign workers. But since 2007, thanks to an uncontrolled migration, we had a downright explosion of the population numbers. Now let's go to the other side. So the SP, which is the left wing. Die Schweiz hat traditionell immer von der Einwanderung profitiert und wird auch in Zukunft. Habe ich falsch geschrieben. Sorry, I've seen a typo. I wrote Zukunft and I didn't realize it. It should be Zukunft. Auf die Einwanderung angewiesen sein. Ziel von unserer Integrationspolitik ist es, Chancengleichheit und Teilnahme am öffentlichen Leben zu fördern. So in Germany would be, die Schweiz hat traditionell immer von der Einwanderung profitiert und wird auch in Zukunft auf die Einwanderung angewiesen sein. Ziel von unserer Integrationspolitik ist es, Chancengleichheit und Teilnahme am öffentlichen Leben zu fördern. Or in English, Switzerland has traditionally always benefited from the migration and will still be dependent on it in the future. The aim of our politics of integration is to get equal opportunities and participation in the public life. And then the ones in between which stand out, which is Maas Voll, which is a new party which was created during COVID. And probably their slogan in regard to migration is simply remigration, so actually migrate people out again. And I chose this because of Stumpe Jesus, and I say this is the name which was used for Nicolas Rimoldi. And this is because he's a little bit of how you call a Selbstdarsteller. Maybe I get it afterwards. So, a Stumpe is a cigar, but it's a little bit different because we have like small ones and crooked ones and so on, which we explicitly call Stumpe. And for the fatter ones, the bigger ones, we call them Zigarre. And I think anyone knows Jesus. And I put him in not to, promote or condemn Nicolas Rimoldi, but simply to show a part of the Swiss mindset. As we Swiss historically and to this day are rejecting overarching authority and thus have some kind of a rebellious mindset. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the Celtic Star Trek, just a tiny, a tiny quote regarding this. Among the Celts, they, meaning the Helvetii, do not accept monarchy, but whoever among them tries to play the tyrant, they'll kill. So we have kind of a history of not liking overarching authority or, tyrants. Oh, and I forgot. A tyrant is a little bit different today than the meaning was during the Roman times or Greek times, because a tyrant during those times simply meant single ruler or a ruler which does things for himself and not not for the benefit of the people. And so why rebellious? Because both political sides have actually produced something like you call a golden calf in English, or in Swiss German, a Goldenix-Kalb or Goldenix-Kalb. So that's why the E is in brackets, because you sometimes pronounce it and sometimes you don't. And or you don't have to actually. So what's the golden calf for those parties? For the SVP, it's the economy. And for the SP, it's that all the people are the same, doesn't matter what they do, rather than what they are. So, yeah, you should treat people the same, which should be logically for everyone, but not if somebody acts under bad faith. And this is kind of forgotten. So it's simply a logical consequence that a political party arises if you have circumstances like this, which rejects them. And one other thing is that, like the Swiss or the Swiss mindset doesn't like is forbidden words. Because Swiss have some kind of, we call that Stammtisch Mentalität. And Stammtisch means the table which is reserved for regulars. So to this day, you have small pubs, or as we call it, Beize or bites singular, where you actually find them, and mostly it's a round table with, I say, with not shield, with a sign in the middle of the table where it's written Stammtisch. So you shouldn't sit there. Which leads to Stammtischgespräch, which is, or which means, it's like colloquially said that it's like a drunken but truthful overreacting rant. So for people in the UK, it would be like if Uncle Barry had two or I don't know how many pints too many and starts ranting, or if you're American, I don't know, like if Cletus opens his mouth, something like that. Excuse me. So fast forward to the actual creation of Switzerland in 1291. Oh, we are already over half an hour. It kind of takes me longer than I thought. So in 1291, we had the Oath at Rütli. So our mythical version of the conspiracy against the Habsburger, the House of Habsburg. While it certainly didn't happen in this exact manner, the Rütli Wiese is a perfect place if you want to meet and want to be safe while conspiring against a bigger force, because it only had narrow ways to access it by land. So you could go there with a small entourage and actually defend it. So if it was there, I don't know, or I say we think it is, but not quite sure. But it would be a perfect place for this. So yeah, that's why it's probably used. And because of this oath is why we call Switzerland the Eidgenossenschaft. So a camaraderie of oath keepers. So Rütli-Schwur, oath at Rütli, and Eidgenossenschaft, an oath camaraderie, or if it's one person, an oath comrade. And just a tiny side note again, there is a lot of hate on Reddit regarding people who have stickers with Eidgenoss on it. Now, they are certainly right-wingers, so it's clear that the left doesn't like them, but they're not specifically racist. And I mean, sure, there probably are some, but Eidgenossen means that you swear your loyalty to your fellow man, which you could do regardless of your ethnicity or race, so that's weird for me. And further, sometimes people even write the N-word, the Nazis, which is even weirder because the Nazis hated the Swiss because of exactly that reason. The Swiss were hard-headed, rebellious, anti-authoritarians, which were I can't talk today, loyalty to their fellow man. So that doesn't really fit. So anyway, let's continue. The semi-mythical event was made even more mystical over the years because they mixed in the story of Wilhelm Tell. And while there are parts of the Tell story which existed way earlier, the story we have today was written by Schiller, so a couple of hundred years later. And if you don't know the story, here's a small recap. So there's a reef, which German would be Vogt. So you probably heard that, or could be that you hear that from the media as well. So you have fremde Vögte, so foreign reefs, would be in Swiss German Fremdi or Fremde Vogt, or if it's plural, Fremdi Vögter. Now, I'm too fast. Now, back to the reef. It was from the Habsburg, and he acted like a tyrant. He did that to the extent that he put a hat onto a pole and has everyone who passes it bow to it. So pole would be a Pfosten. Now, Pfosten is if it's fixed somewhere or somehow. It can be fixed into an object as well, and can be for structural purposes and so forth. Pfosten is as well the word that we use for idiot. So in German, you actually would say more like, you can say Pfosten, but you would rather say Vollpfosten. In Swiss German, you leave the voll away, and you simply would say, oh, my bestimmt Pfosten, which literally means, oh my God, you're an idiot. Then we have the next word for pole, which is Stange, which would be more like the one-to-one translation for pole. But a Stange needs to be something that you can hold in a hand. And as far as I know, this is the reason why we call a Stange, or a small beer, which is a 3 deciliter beer, called it a Stange because it kind of resembles one. So usually it's due to the form of the glass, which is, yes, it's a little bit conical, but it resembles a pole. That's why we drink a pole in the bites. And the last one would be Pfahl, but Pfahl is meant for something that you have to drive in. So, yeah, so a Pfosten can be a Pfahl if it has a point, and so forth. So back to the story. Everyone who passes this hat has to bow before it. Now Tell doesn't do it and threatens the Vogt, which enrages the Vogt, and as a punishment he has to shoot the apple from his son's head. And you probably know that story or have seen reference to it. Now he did that under the he told him, either you shoot down the apple or you both get killed. Now he mastered that challenge, and afterwards he was sent to prison, where on the way to it he escaped, which is mentioned as the heroic Till-Sprung, where he jumped out of the boat during a storm and got away with it. Then he laid low for a while and then laid an ambush for the Vogt, where we get the famous "Durch diese hohle Gasse muss kommen." So he has to come through this hollow alley. And you see it here. This is the original alley, or the alley that was mentioned in the story. It's really narrow and it has steep walls, so you cannot run away. You simply have to walk through there, so it's perfect for an ambush. Then he shoots him in the back, and so that's basically the story. So just to recap it, the story basically tells us, don't be an idiot and threaten tyrants directly, else you're gonna get punished. Even if it's hard, master the challenge the tyrant gives you. Don't attack the bigger force directly. Wait and prepare till you have the right circumstances, and then act. So, that's as much as I prepared for today. I will check the chat and the post on Reddit. During that, I will where is it? I will run a small, video, which is from Hans Jucker. He is, or he was, this is many years old, a sports reporter. So, here we go.
Mackenzie, Sie sprechen Deutsch? Nein. Komm. Zürich, ich nehme an, ihr hört mich schon. Ja, die hören mich immer.
Jetzt glaubst du nicht, jetzt schifft es nach unten rauf. Das hat den Föhn haben, Max.
Kriegst mir den Rominger nie mehr zum Pipi machen, du. Der Giorgioccioli war ja auch da, der muss auch Pipi machen. 10 seconds. 10 seconds, okay. Wir gehen aber jetzt weg. So.
Oh, warte, jetzt Kopf, verdammt, ich sag dir, jetzt bin ich tropfnass langsam.
10 seconds.
Ja, wieder 10 Seconds.
Ist mir noch der Stuhl auf den Grind gefallen.
Lass schon. Zorigo.
Lass den Stuhl da unten, ich will den Stuhl nicht mehr da oben sehen. Schluss, fein. Sie sind das dritte Mal runtergefallen.
Just. Buono. Okay. Okay.
Jetzt hat es da einen so ein Stoffdach auf der Ehrentribüne. Jetzt hat es das verjagt. Sind ein paar gerade im Wasserfall reingeguckt.
Alles, Rulle. Ja, ancora. Ja, ist okay, merci.
Ja, und wieder ein Filster. Das regt mich auf, die dummen Hurenruderer da. Da schnurrst und nachher fahren sie dann einfach davon.
Wo der Alpen fühlen sich
Du Pesche, ich weiss nicht, wie lange wir noch Zeit haben. Jetzt kommen wir zuerst noch die Scheissponys.
Bei der Zwischenzeit 20,22 Sekunden Rückstand. Ja, aber nein. Jetzt weiss ich nicht mehr, wo durch. Jetzt ist er wieder ganz sauber verkleidet.
Eine riesige Freude hier im Schweizer Lager im Zielraum. Silbermedaille für den Peter Müller, 4. Platz für den Pirmin Zurbriggen und 5. für den Urs Reber. Pirmin Zurbriggen, ein grossartiges Ereignis heute.
Ja, ich bin der Peter Müller nicht dabei.
Oh, dann fangen wir noch mal an. Hure Sieg. Hure Leli, das ist der Beste.
Schau jetzt das an. 2 Minuten länger. 1 Minute. Schau jetzt. Und der erste ist schon da. Da kommen 2. Nein, jetzt kommen 2. Oh, oh. Oh. Ganz gut. Nein, das habe ich aber noch nie gesehen. Oh, oh. Ja.
Morgen findet zwar kein Fußball statt, aber es gibt gleich ein Sport aktuell 2220, meinst zur Wiederholung, damit ihr so wisst und nicht extra rausgeht. Fußball, Super League, sämtliche Spiele sind
Was? Ist jetzt los? Ah, fertig. Okay. Here we go. Oh shit. Where is it? So, sorry, I couldn't find a window. We actually only have 2 questions here. One is, I cannot say that name, but entertaining stream today. Are you taking an Xmas Christmas break? Actually, yes, but only during the holidays. So the last 2 weeks there will not be as a stream. And in January I have I'm away for 11 days for work. So there will be, I'm not sure if I should do a stream right before because I'm gone from Wednesday to, Sunday the week or on the next week. So let's see if I have enough time. I will do a stream before that, so not on Thursday, but on Tuesday or Monday, something like that. But I'd rather not because spend time with the family and so on. Because if I'm away for work, rather spend some time prior to that with the family. And the other question would be: is the rolling R the same as in Spanish? Practically yes, as far as I know. Quiero sono maybe a little bit slight and not as pronounced, but I would say it's the same. But I speak like 3 or 4 words in Spanish, so I'm not great at that language. So actually, quiero una cerveza, por favor, is the only thing I know. So yeah. So we don't have any further questions. With that, I would say thanks for joining and have a nice evening. Goodbye.